Now, the victim was killed by going through a plate glass window. We need to come up with a plausible story for what could have happened based on the evidence. So let's go, fire away. No such thing as a stupid suggestion.
Suicide!
That was my first thought, too, but I tested the theory.
This is Dwayne Reed, testing suicide theory of Margaret Henderson. Take one.
Dang.
Okay, what else could have happened? Except Larry throwing his wife through the window. Anything, huh? First idea that pops into your head.
Bird. Birds fly into windows all the time.
Should I write it down?
Sure. Other ideas. Maybe we should get some lunch. What do you guys feel like?
Thai, Mexican, sandwich, fried chicken. We could have a picnic.
Thanks, everybody. Give it up one more time for Stephen Boyer. Let's hear it. I'm lucky. You know, we had John Lithgow here just a couple weeks ago, and I got to watch a few episodes of the show, and it's fantastic. It's so funny.
Thanks. We have a great time doing it. I mean, it's a dream come true. It's just like, you know, comedy gold with John Lithgow. It's amazing.
How did they pitch this character to you, and where did you take it after the pitch?
They didn't really pitch the character to me so much as they just I read the script and kind of immediately had a sense of Dwayne Reed. He kind of jumps off the page and into walls.
What was your sense?
That he is the brains of the operation. You know, he is misunderstood. He's kind of, Dwayne is like, he's never left East Peck his entire life, and he is kind of like a jack of all trades. It's like whatever needs to be done, he'll do it.
Good, well or badly. You know?
Yeah, and he's great because like, he manages to be a hilarious character without being, he's good-natured, right. Which is something that oftentimes, you know, comedy, it's like, it's mean-spirited.
Well, it's definitely a thin line that they're walking with someone like Dwayne Reed in terms of at what point does that become mean-spirited, and at what point is it he has his heart sort of overwhelms any kind of mean-spiritedness.
Yeah, but he's got a lot of heart.
Is that something that you have to play with your performance to a certain degree to make sure that he doesn't come off too one way rather than the other? Yeah,
because you never want to, you know, make fun of the character. It's like you want to, you know, respect the character. But yeah, so it's a balancing act.
And now you have a lot of scenes with Sherry Shepherd. When they told you that Sherry Shepherd was going to be your co-star, did you know of her past comedy work, or were you just like, we're not going to be talking today's hot topics? I'm not sure, you know what.
No, I'd seen her on 30 Rock, and so I knew, you know, I knew her from that. More so than The View. I didn't watch a lot of You.
But you do try to recreate today's hot topics with her when you're
every day.
Sort of get her
every day. I'm like, give me a hot take, Sherry. Tell me what's up.
So what is it like working with this cast?
It's incredible. I mean, like we really had a lot of freedom to improvise, and you know, the writers gave us just a lot of leeway because they started once they kind of saw our strengths, they would like write to our strengths and give us a lot of freedom to just, you know, throw out new punchlines, and they would just keep the cameras rolling, and like John Lithgow would do the craziest stuff. And
were you expecting? I mean, you'd worked with John Lithgow before, right?
Yeah.
On King Lear. But
yeah, very different.
Were you surprised to see sort of how incredible he is at throwing out wild improvisations and just being really silly?
No, because I came to know John's work first. I saw him in Buckaroo Banzai. I don't know if people remember that movie, but that thing was incredible. And
Terry Gilliam?
no, it was.
Oh, I'm thinking of Time Bandits.
Yeah,
Sorry.
Time Bandits, another great one without John Lithgow. But
Why, for some reason, I get those two confused, I have no idea. But
you'll
need to work out
figure
with
it out.
my therapist.
But then Third Rock from the Sun. Third Rock from the Sun was just like one of the great sitcoms, and he was, high comedy in that.
You could argue one of the last great sort of multi-camera
Yeah,
sitcoms because
for sure.
after 30 Rock and Seinfeld and maybe even Friends, you don't really get that many great multicam sitcoms after that. It's like really difficult to sort of hold on to that style.
I love that form though. It's like nothing beats it.
Well, if you're an actor on it, it's Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, in and out.
Yeah,
Whereas you guys probably shoot, because you're single camera, you probably shoot like 12, 13-hour days.
for sure. There were some Fridays where we didn't get home till 5 a.m. Really? Yeah. They call them fratter days.
Right. Were you expecting that doing a show like this?
No, not at all. I mean, I was like, oh, this is going to be. It was actually a lot. It was a lot more work than I anticipated. I'm like, oh yeah, it's a comedy. But they were long days.
So you worked with, as we said before, John Lithgow in King Lear.
King Lear, yeah.
Shakespeare in the Park. Mm-hmm. What was that like? When he was here, he said that was one of the highest moments of his career. He had always wanted to play King Lear, and that was the moment that he finally got to do it.
Yeah, it was. I don't really do a lot of Shakespeare. I mostly work on like new plays and stuff. But
is that by intention or just sort of the way it is?
It's just kind of the way it worked out. I just ended up working more on new plays than on classics, and so I was a little wary about doing King Lear, but then it was one of the greatest experiences of my life, and I think in no small part because of John. Like John as like the captain of the ship, he just makes it such an amazing collaborative experience for everyone, and that applied to this too. I mean, everyone was so happy to go to work every day, and it was so collaborative, and it's just like he's just like the nicest guy.
And he really seems like he enjoys what he does, like he really loves it.
Loves it. He loves it. He loves the work, and he's working just as hard to make great comedy as he was working to be, Winston Churchill. It's like he approaches it with the same seriousness. It's like, he takes comedy seriously, which is great.
Did you have to learn to take comedy seriously? Did you know already that like comedy has to be taken just as seriously as King Lear in terms of?
Yeah, because if you don't take comedy seriously, it dies. It dies on the vine. It's like you're begging for laughs. You're asking for laughs. It's like the laugh shouldn't be the goal. The goal is to, do something that's truthful so that people see it and they laugh because they recognize, oh, I know that person, or I know that situation.
They're not just laughing because
they're not just laughing
funny.
because of the punchline. They're laughing because, they see something that they recognize from life, and those are just better laughs.
How often do you find that your improvisations make it into the show? Because it's so, I ask this a lot of people sometimes because everyone loves to improvise on their shows, but if you ever worked on a 22-minute show, it really has to move fast, and they're beat out a very specific way. So everybody gets to sort of have fun and get your own take, but at the end of the day, I feel like the episodes come out and you're like, well, why did I get my own take? Like, or you had to tell this story.
Yeah, I mean, I got in the habit of just kind of like doing a different something new each take, and we just kept rolling and kept riffing on things, and so when I watch the episodes, I'm like, I want to see which one they chose, and sometimes it's not what might have been funniest on the day, but they want to get lots of different takes so that they can, this was something that I'd never thought about, but Jeff Blitz, the director, he's like, I know that this seems like it's the funniest way to do it right now, but once we edit the show together, He's like, it could be too close to a joke that's going to come right before this moment or right after this moment. And he's like, so you're right. This might be the funniest way to do it in the room right now. But we need to have, vary up the jokes, vary up the laughs. And
you see that on all great comedy projects, right? Like Judd Apatow and that crew is very well known for having a sort of bench of comedians sitting behind the camera waiting to throw out different lines.
Totally.
Because when they get in the edit and they start test screening, they want to know what works. And a lot of times I've made stuff before where it's like we're all dying laughing while doing it and we think it's the funniest thing we've ever done. But
but it's just for you.
Yeah.
And it's like, and it's hard in the moment to judge, like, is this funny just for us or is it funny for them? And
then it's that hard feeling where like, oh, that's what you think is funny?
Yeah.
How do I even learn from that? Because I don't think that was very funny.
yeah, exactly. So it was a great experience. The Bear was awesome.
So a lot of the improvisation is for the purpose of like having different options for the editors when they get into the room.
Yeah, and the writers would be like, we would throw something out there and the writer would come over and be like, that was great, say that and this. And you're like, oh, good, this is great.
Now, I said a bench of comedians. You were in Wolf of Wall Street. And I'm always curious when I talk to people who were in that movie because no matter what size of the part, it sounds like they might have been there for like 2 months shooting, hanging out. Did you have that experience or did you have like a day or two?
I was there for a week. But I mean, in the movie, I don't actually have any lines. So I was there for a week, like, improvising, being like, this fucking guy, fuck you, you fucking piece of shit. And, just, like, getting my Joe Pesci on. And then and then the movie comes out, and I'm like, oh, wonder what line made it in. And I'm like, oh, no lines. No lines made it in. So... But it's still, there was a scene in the movie that made it in that managed to get a laugh even though there were no lines, which is, he's on the phone pitching penny stocks to this woman and I'm sitting next to him being like, this fucking guy. Oh, yeah. And then eventually...
So wait, was your scene, 'cause I haven't seen the movie in a while, was your scene the penny stocks with where Spike Jonze was running that office?
Yeah, Spike Jonze. Yeah.
That's a great scene.
That guy was hilarious. He, every take. I know.
Kings,
I know.
He's really
awesome.
funny. Yeah.
Every take he was doing something different, and Martin Scorsese would be like, have his headphones on, and every time that somebody would improv, he would just be like.
Wait, so did he do that for you too? Did you notice him?
He did it for everyone. He's like your kindly old uncle who loves to make movies.
So I have to ask then, what is it like to improvise, to create something on the fly and watch Martin Scorsese react positively to it?
It's amazing. It's great. It's like the greatest.
I can't imagine a greater validation for yourself.
I mean, he's like this tall. He's got, a big teeth and he walks
eyebrows that go all the way back.
Yeah, and he it's like when he first walked in, he's like, "Hi, how you doing? Marty. Hi. Nice to meet you." And then he just goes, he's like, "We're going to come in and then we're going to push in here." And it's like, yes, whatever you say, Martin Scorsese, you're incredible. It's like, and then there's going to be some Rolling Stones playing in the background, and there's going to be slow-mo blood, and it's going to be great.
And then he just told you to improvise? He was just like, go ahead, do your thing.
It just kind of, you just kind of knew that he wanted everyone to do that. Because once you film one take, and then you film the second take and somebody goes completely off script and you see him being like, you're like, oh, Marty likes that. I guess we all should do that. And that's what we did for a week. For a week, we were like, this fat fuck, for a week we were like insulting each other and cursing and like smoking and eating and acting like assholes.
That sequence in the movie is not that long.
No. I think the first cut of the movie was like 5 hours. And then he's like, I got to get this down. I got to get it down to 3.5. Yeah, he filmed way too much.
I might watch Wolf of Wall Street tonight because just remembering that sequence, it's really funny, but it is so short. I can't believe that a week to film that.
Yeah. There was a lot of stuff. There was a lot of cursing and
There was a lot of getting actors together that he liked and letting them play for a little while.
Yeah, yeah.
How did you, was that something that you had to audition for, or had he
Yeah,
seen you
and
on
the audition
theater?
was an improvised audition. They just, there was a room with phones at a table, and you went in with 2 other guys, and they were like, just sell me stocks. And you're like, what the fuck? Sell you stocks? What kind of stocks? They're like, I don't know, go.
Is he in the room for that?
He was for the callback. And I'm
Wait,
like,
they made you do that
I'm just
again at the
making,
callback?
I'm just making stuff up. I'm just making stuff up.
What was the stock that you were selling? Do you remember in the audition?
It was radar detectors. It was radar detectors for, like, you know, to avoid a speeding ticket. And it was it was totally ridiculous. It was like it made no sense, but it was me and 2 other guys, and we're trying to game plan. We're like, okay, I'm gonna say this, and then when I pause, then you can do your thing, okay, and then you'll do your thing, because we didn't want to all just be talking over each other, and you know, none of us would get the part. As it turned out, all 3 of us in that room got the part. So, and I don't think any one of us had a line that made it into the movie.
Now, you have seems like an impression of Martin Scorsese. You do impressions, don't you? Don't you have a series of impressions that you do?
Yeah.
What is in your opinion, what is your best impression? If you don't want to do them now, I totally understand
I probably Michael J. Fox. I did an episode of High Maintenance, and there had to be. They're like, we don't know what this character is about, but he needs to be a comedian who can only do one thing well, and it's really annoying because he does it all the time. I'm like, I'll do a Michael J. Fox impression forever. And they're like, yeah, like, great. But, you know, it's just like, Doc, listen, you made a time machine out of a DeLorean? That's heavy stuff, Doc. I got to get back to 1985.
That was great. That was
Thanks.
great. Give it up, guys. When did you start doing impressions?
When I was like a little kid, I just would tell a story about something and do an impression of the people in the story, like, you know, my family or whatever. But like, you know, John Lithgow.
Yeah, I was waiting. You looked over
He's
there
like,
and I was
no, Stevie. He calls me Stevie, which is great. In interviews, he's like, Stevie Boyer. Yeah. He's like, I asked him, I was like, John, so you did The Crown. I'm like, John Lithgow is a tall man. Yeah. And, you know, Winston Churchill was like a dwarf. So I'm like, how did they cast you? What did you, this is before I watched it, I'm like, what did you do? He's like, oh, Stevie, I don't know. He's like, honestly, I hunched over and I hope for the best.
Did you pick that impression of him up just on the show recently, or did you pick it up on King Lear?
King Lear.
King Lear.
Yeah.
And has he seen your impression? Have you done it for him?
Yeah, and I think he doesn't know that I'm doing an impression of him. At one point, he was like, I was doing some impression of someone else, and he's like, oh, I can't wait till you have an impression of me. And I'm like, I have an impression of you, John. I do it in front of you, and you just don't know that it's you.
Sometimes it's hard for people to pick up on that, you know?
Yeah, I guess. I guess so.
Let's get some questions from the audience right here.
Hey, Steven.
Hi.
What's going on?
You know. This.
Is that your question?
That's my question. That's it.
Next.
Thank you for being here. I'm actually a huge fan. Your performance in Hand to God was truly one of the best, if not the best, performance I'd ever seen on stage.
Well,
Incredible work.
Thank you.
And in my opinion, you were robbed for the Tony. That's just my opinion. My question is about that performance, and you know, you were literally not only just playing 2 characters, but 2 characters that were in a scene together. What was that like, rehearsing that, and what kind of, you know, work did you need to do to create that role?
Well, the just as far as like technical stuff, I didn't realize until I started rehearsing that show that I wouldn't be able to hold my script. we had to set up, my hands were occupied being the puppet, Tyrone. And so I had to set up music stands around the stage with script pages on it. And I would just be like, what am I saying? What am I saying? But rehearsing those roles, it ended up in a way being like rehearsing anything else except you're just doing twice the work. Because it's the same, you have to have an inner life for Jason, the kid, and you also have to have an inner life for Tyrone, the puppet. And, when Jason is speaking, Tyrone needs to continue his thought process. And when Tyrone is speaking, Jason needs to continue his thought process. And so it's just tracking the characters, wants and desires and tactics throughout the story, but you're just doing it twice. And then the technical machinations of how to work the puppet and how to make that express something, and having like a gestural vocabulary for that. And it's like, it's like when you build a character as yourself, you're figuring out how to move and how to create a characterization that's unique. And you're doing the same thing with a sock. So I guess, does that answer your question?
Do you find that creating a character, be it in King Lear or in a comedy like Trial and Error, or two characters at the same time on a stage, is always fairly similar, that your process doesn't really change depending on the kind of show, movie, or play you're doing?
It changes in the sense that every project is different, and you're trying to figure out, what you want to convey and what you want to make. And making a network sitcom is different than making King Lear. I didn't do as much research before this began as I did, for Shakespeare. But once you're in the room, it is very similar. Like on the day, it can be you're just dealing with the problem of how to make that scene work, how to communicate with your castmate.
Next question.
Hey.
Hi.
So I was reading that after Hand to God, you kept one of the sock puppets.
I did.
Do you still bring him out or play with him at all?
Party trick?
When I'm just wasted, I'm just drunk, walking. I'm like, hey, it's Tyrone, he's back. No,
The bodega?
at the bodega, I go in there and I'm like, give me some smokes. No, he's like, he lives in my closet, like on a shelf, and sometimes I'll like be looking for something and I'll forget that he's there, and I'm like, oh, because he's just like laying there staring at me, waiting for me to put him back on. No, I don't really bring him out so much. Every once in a while, someone will ask me to do like some sort of performance, and I have to resurrect Tyrone, write some jokes, and they always want him to be an asshole, which is fun. But yeah, I don't really do Tyrone when I'm walking around my apartment. Maybe I'll start. Why not?
Like a bad
It's a
80s
slow
horror
day.
movie in there somewhere.
Yeah,
The puppet
totally.
that takes over.
Yeah.
I think we have time for one more question right there.
Hello.
Hi.
With Dwayne, is there any characteristics that you can relate to? And in a recent interview, I heard Nick and Sherry mention that you were the funniest person in the cast. I was wondering, who do you think is the funniest person on cast?
Who is the funniest person in the cast? I would have to say Sherry. Sherry cracks me up more than anyone else in the show.
She's really funny in this
She is
part.
so damn funny. And every time, she always like brings something different each take, and it just, you know it's working when the crew blows the take because they crack up, and that happens a lot with Sherry. Like, people just can't, the guy behind the camera can't keep it together because he's laughing at Sherry so much. And what was the first part of your question? Characteristics. Yeah, you know, it's Dwayne fails a lot, and I think that we can all relate to, you know, getting out there and trying your best, but it just doesn't quite work out. Dwayne always tries really hard. It doesn't always work out.
Does he recognize his failure, or will there be a moment where he recognizes the failure?
He does, but he doesn't take it too personal. You know, he gets back on the horse, sometimes a literal horse.
Yeah.
And you know, he gets back out there. He doesn't take it too hard. He's not too hard on himself, which is good.
Steven, when can people watch Trial and Error? What night is it on?
Trial and Error is on Tuesday nights at 9 o'clock.
On NBC?
On NBC, and it's 2 episodes every Tuesday. So it's a half-hour show, but they're going to air it in a block, in an hour block. And so, you know, if you just can't get enough Trial and Error, you're going to get it twice.
Tuesday nights, 9 o'clock.
Tuesday nights,
NBC
between
Trial and Error.
9 and
One
10.
of the funniest shows on television. So good. Stephen Boyer, everybody. Thank you.